Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about reevaluating your goals and priorities as a couple so you can start the year focused and truly aligned as a couple.
Oh yeah, and this is one of my favorite topics. It's a little different than communication and conflict, which we cover quite a bit, but it's going to give you a really meaningful conversation to have.
And before I lose any of you, because if I was listening to this, you would lose me at goals. Now I want to say that because depending on the space that you're in, we're in the entrepreneurial space, personal development, business things. So for me, and probably, marketing and all that stuff, I hear goals so often, I snooze. As soon as I hear someone talk about goals, I'm like, this is too basic. Now, we talked about habits and goals, and they are honestly really important. But as we get in here, you could switch in your mind the word goals to aspirations or desires. And that to me really helps me get into this episode, as I hope it does for you too, because it's not just goals. Goals are kind of like the stepping stones to realizing something. And the other side of it is, it's boring to me, I think. When I hear goals, I'm bored. But in reality, in your life and in your relationship, you're going to have new aspirations, and you're always going to have new things that you desire. And this is where we want to go with this. So it's not just evaluating your goals, but what is there for you and your partner that you want to aspire for? Or is there something you've desired that you want to bring forth to share and express with your partner and see where that might take you?
I love that you're using the word aspire, because that's what it's really about. And what we find is that when couples don't have something they're aspiring for, their relationship starts to feel kind of mundane. Life feels a little bit kind of like same old, same old. As human beings, we're meant to have at least something we're aspiring for. We're going to give you some ideas and some questions to ask each other to get to what it is for you, because it doesn't have to be you're aspiring for wealth or for a business, any of that. But when you aspire for something together as a couple, you're going to feel something ignite you two. You're going to feel united. You're going to feel like a team. And it gives you some juice in life. It gives you something that you're inspired by. And this is something we started early in our partnership. And it's something that we do every year. And we always have something that we're aspiring for. And I think that it does help us kind of prevent the same old, same old. Now, do we have days where we feel that? Yes. But we also feel inspired in life because we're aspiring for something.
Let me put out a different cut at this as well.
Okay.
I was thinking about this, and it's not to me only that things get, let's say, mundane, but it's because you and all of us, when you get into a relationship, because of the stage that you're in at that time, you start to aspire. Now check this out. It's interesting. You start to aspire for safety and security. And there's nothing wrong with that. We want you to be responsible. We want you to have security for sure. But if you think about that, think back of other times of your life. I was thinking about this myself, in college or out of college, what were you inspiring for? For me, it was like aspiring to get a great job. It was also at a certain period, I was aspiring to try to get someone to like me and be in a relationship with me, right? Then when I got out of college, it was more so let me aspire to really move in this company and the career that I was in. At that point, I was so numb and hurt from the relationships, I wasn't even aspiring for that anymore. And I was actually aspiring to be the best single person I could be.
Aww.
But either way, right? So now you get into a relationship, and in the beginning, you aspire, in a sense, to create a life together. And that has some of that juice. Now, put yourself in this situation. At some point in your relationship, you started to aspire for safety and security. And there's nothing really wrong, but if you don't reevaluate that, safety and security is not really the very best thing to pursue in life. It's not very juicy.
You want to create the safety and security to give you the platform and the foundation to then springboard from there.
For sure. And many people don't reevaluate to say, oh, we still shooting for like safety and security when what could we think about and aspire that would really pull us forward? So let me give a little bit of credit here to said guru. He is a traditional yogi master and world leader at this point. I've read his books. I've been to his in-person inner engineering. I listen to him every day. And it's funny because he thinks about why would you, this is coming from, you have to put in perspective where he's coming from. To seek for safety and security in this life is not a great goal. He's a funny guy. He says, if you want safety and security, you'll have that in the grave. Like you won't have anything to worry about in the grave. And when you think about that, you're like, wow, it's so true that at the end of my life, would being able to say I had safety and security be the thing I always wanted? And it's not really, right? So we get into this place, whether it's with your kids or your spouse, or you start to get to pursuing, and then you forget that you were actually pursuing all your goals and focus and energy towards safety and security, when, again, it's not like you got into a mundane place in your relationship, but if you didn't really look at what are we aspiring for and you defaulted to the security, it kind of just ends up being blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's not that juicy. One
other thing that comes to me is, life goes by pretty quickly, which I know can sound like a cliche. We all talk about, oh my gosh, where'd this year go? But it adds up. And look, it's going to keep going. Like you can't just hit pause on life. And so time's going to keep going. You're going to keep aging. And if you don't pause and reflect, yes, as an individual, but we're inviting you to do this as a couple, you're going to wake up 5 years past and you're like, what did we really do here? Are we that fulfilled? Fulfillment is a huge part of life. Are we that fulfilled? Why don't I feel that happy? Why haven't I achieved some of these things that I know are really on my bucket list? Or
wouldn't you say, like, why does this kind of feel like the same?
The same old, same old.
For 5 years?
Exactly.
So because you were just shooting for safety and security. I'm going to keep saying it.
And it becomes so easy to just do things because that's how you do things.
Oh, that's so true.
You're just in a pattern, you're in a routine, and you're an autopilot. And I think we have to intentionally pause, look at our life, look at our relationship. How's it going? Are we on path? Are there things we want to change? Because again, it is so easy to just do it because you do it. And here's a simple, but I feel like a very telling example. So I have the best chiropractor ever. Like she's been taking care of me my whole pregnancy. She makes me feel amazing. She's an amazing soul and person. And we were talking in one of the sessions, the appointments, and she's asking about our work and our lifestyle. And I'm like, yeah, we start our work like around 11 a.m.-ish, and she's like, what? What do you mean? And I said, well, we designed our business and our life where, yes, if we feel inspired to do something creative before then, we do. But otherwise, we spend the morning exercising and meditating and journaling and just getting quality time together.
And probably going to be a lot different once this baby comes.
A little bit different. Yep. We're going to adjust the meditation and the exercise
Which
a little
I know
bit.
For all the parents are like, yeah, of course. Can't wait for you to get there. And I am also excited to still design our life. Obviously, there's going to be new responsibilities with sleep and feeding and diapering, which for me is going to be a lot different going through elimination communication. But anyway, yes, there's going to be different things to handle. There's another being, but we're still excited to really say how we want our life to go still.
Exactly. And so we shared that with her, and we plan on doing that even when baby Freeman is here. And she was blown away. It never occurred to her that she could adjust her business schedule, because it was just the way she was doing things. And so I came back like 2 weeks later and she had adjusted it.
Oh,
like
wow.
She set the goal and then she did it, so sometimes you can achieve your goal or the adjustment, the priority sooner rather than later. But that was something you and I set as a goal early in our relationship when we worked 9 to 5s. And so that's just an example of how it's very easy that until you pause, check things out, check out your life, you can just keep doing it. Because it's easy to keep doing it.
Let's get into some questions that you, the listener, can ask your partner, and then maybe we give some examples that we're looking at even as we move into this next year.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with 3 meaningful questions to ask each other. And this is just like kind of a handful for you to discuss. Of course, there's more. And then we're going to give you specific step-by-step ways to create these goals together. But the first meaningful question you could ask each other is, hey, what is something that would excite you to pursue this next year? Start simple, right? Ask your partner, whether you're having dinner together to do this activity or you are on a walk or you're at a park. Hey, what is something that would excite you to pursue? Notice the word excite, right? It's not just, hey, what's a goal you want to set? Because you
Boring.
could just, right? It's what would excite you? And that's a good question to ask each other, because then you're tapping into kind of what really matters to your partner. Anything you want to add to that question?
I think when you ask that question, just preface it by saying, and we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change anything. Don't even limit yourself to what your schedule currently permits or doesn't permit. Just say, if you had the time and the space, what would excite you to pursue?
Exactly.
And probably start with an individual thing. Rather, you don't have to start off by saying, for us, it's about pursuing things that you're individually passionate about. So give your partner and yourself the space to, if we could pursue this and have the time and we were just free to do so, what would excite you to pursue?
And then we're going to give you in a few minutes how to then create the goal together. So again, this isn't just about you two as individuals. The second question is, what do we need to remove in our life or remove from our life to have more time or space for our priorities? This question is so important because for so many people, you already feel busy. You already feel like your life is full. And so you have to actually discuss, what do we need to remove? And maybe there are things that you can't delete altogether. Maybe it is about, okay, maybe we need to remove it by hiring someone to help us with that, or doing some kind of trade or asking for help. But you need to create the time and space for your priorities. Because if you keep saying something's a priority, like your health, for example, but then you keep using the excuse of, but I don't have time. We have kids, and by the time we're done with dinner and, we get up early in the morning and all that, then it's actually not that much of a priority to you if you're still using these excuses and reasons as a way to get out of doing it. If it really was a priority, you would remove some things or adjust some things so that you could do it.
We said this before, and really your actions tell you what your priorities are.
True.
It's not your words. So when you say, oh, my health is a priority, and you don't do anything about it, well, it's not that it's not a priority. It's that something else is more of a priority. It could be
sleep.
TV. It could be relaxing. It could be entertaining yourself. It could be, I don't know, any number of things. Something that's probably opposed to waking up, or probably more so creating the habit, whether it is a gym habit, a nutrition habit, or even mindset habit around your health.
And before you go, hey, Freemans, you're saying all that because your baby's not been born yet. Just wait. No. I have plenty of people in my life who, there's a girl I see at the gym 4 times a week. She just had a baby 2 months ago, and she shows up at the gym at 6 a.m. So I'm not saying it doesn't take something to create time and space for what's important to you, but she does it. So yes, we don't have the experience yet with a newborn, but I have plenty of people in my life to prove that if something is important to you, you make it happen.
It's worth, at this point, I think, saying, from the book I've been reading, it's Jim Qwik's Limitless book about your brain. And one of the things he talks about is motivation. And I've always thought of motivation as I have to generate a feel-good attitude that then has me take action towards something. That was what motivation was to me. And he said there's a myth around motivation that you have to feel good.
True.
And I thought about that as I was reading. And he said, no, motivation is that you just do it. He talked about, I think it was Will Smith, and there was someone else he used as an example in the book, and said, oh, it's Tom Bilyeu from Quest and obviously other things now. And he said, working with Tom, he did not want to go to the gym. Like, he hates it, but he does it every day. So he's motivated because he's taking the action, but he doesn't feel good or feel in the mood. So there's a way to create motivation from your commitment.
Yes.
And in this case, from what you're talking about, what your actual priority is, and you act around the priority and your commitment, you don't always have to feel good to then go do it. And I thought, wow, that's so true, actually.
Yeah, I love that. Third question, then we're going to give you some steps to create these goals together. The third one is, how do you feel we've grown this year? Right? So the first two are more about setting your intention and what you want to aspire for. But this third one is also reflecting on where you've grown, because you need to look at that and honor yourself, reflect, celebrate each other, or maybe even go, I think I could have grown more. Like, you might even have an honest moment with yourself and your partner of like, we could look at this and this as a growth, but maybe we were a little chill this year. Maybe we could actually step it up next year. So it might be a moment of realizing that you got a little bit too comfortable.
Or, to your point earlier, you were just doing the quote unquote old goals and you continue to do them just because you always did them, and you didn't actually do this process of reevaluating what are our new desires, what do we want to aspire for, what are our priorities, what do we actually need to delete and stop doing that does not actually fill one of those buckets for us.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great realization, and it happens to probably everyone at some point, like, you know what? I was just doing this just because we said we were going to do this. And I think one of the big things is, and I don't know where the research comes from this, but people, actually it's from Influence, the book Influence. Psychologically, people have an idea about seeing themselves as integral. So what happens if you say something out loud or you've committed to something, you don't want to come off as a wishy-washy person to another or to yourself. This is proven. And so you will do things just out of not looking wishy-washy. And it's actually a big thing for someone to stop and say, you know what? I said I was going to do this, but to be honest, not inspired by this anymore. It doesn't fit who I am. It doesn't actually even make sense for the type of person I've become, and actually stop that momentum and that path. That's a huge thing.
It does take something to say that. Yes. Okay, let's go into now how to have this conversation about creating the goals, because those questions were kind of like warming up, having you two get connected, getting your brain down this positive train of thought. Now, in terms of the actually creating of the goals, or like you said, aspirations, first off, get something to write it on, right? We love whiteboards. We have multiple whiteboards. We got one early in our relationship. If you don't have one, then use a piece of paper, right? And then what we recommend is starting off with writing down together, so that you'd be coming up with this as a team, 3 categories of life that you want to focus on. So some categories could be health. But again, this is like you two thinking together, what's important to us. So yes, you're going to have to somewhat negotiate together what the 3 categories are. But health, which could be physical health, mental health, finances is a category, communication, like that's a category of your relationship, your parenting, career, intimacy, maybe spirituality is a big area for you this next year, leisure time. I mean, there's so many that we could list out for you, but you want to pick 3. And we like the number 3 because we find it's not too many, but it's also not too few. Like, you're not just focusing on one, which you may achieve sooner rather than later, and then you don't have something you're still aspiring for. Anything you want to add about the categories or creating the 3?
No, it seems like the right.
Okay. Yep. So together, you've got those 3 categories. It's on your whiteboard. It's on your piece of paper. Now, this is where it's going to be practicing communication, because your version of the goals might look a little bit different. Maybe you both are like, okay, yes, health is a top priority for us. We've been slacking a little bit there this year, but your goals might be a little bit different. And so this is going to be taking you together, kind of molding the goal to fit both of you.
If we bring in one of our principles of the vision statement, I would start here when you create the target or the goal with first starting with how you would like to feel.
Okay.
What's the experience we want to have around this? And I think that's one thing that's typically missing. Again, it's reminding me of the book Limitless I'm currently reading. And you got to be clear about the why, the motivation, the energy, because if you end up just doing something just because you said it as an activity, but you're disconnected to the passion or the why for yourself, you do lose steam.
Yeah.
So I would start by saying, oh, how would we like to feel in the area of physical wellness or mental wellness or spirituality? How would we want to feel?
We'd both like to feel strong, or we both would like to feel energized. Okay, so then from there, I love that. You've got the feeling word. Now you could get into the details and the specifics. And I think everyone approaches creating a goal or a target differently. And I've heard people on podcasts and in books, some people say, don't make the outcome the goal, right? Like, I'll just keep using health as the category because it's kind of easy. Don't make it, oh, we're going to both lose 15 pounds. Instead, make it about, we're going to go to the gym 4 times a week. Like, make it about the process. We'll let you choose either one we've done it both ways. We've done it where we have a certain outcome. We've done this with like financial goals. And we've also done like the process, like what are the actions that are going to help us get there. So you can
I think
focus
both happen at the same time. I like starting with the result because it gives me clarity. So what is the outcome? So first of all, you're starting with what experience do you want to have? That's the why. That's kind of the passion, the sort of motivation. So then what's the result we'd like to have here? Then, well, what would we imagine we would have to do to have that result happen?
What's the process? What's the steps, right? So if we set this goal for our health, what's that actually going to look like in our life? Is it going to be we take turns going to the gym in the morning? Is it that we go on a long walk in the evenings? Is it that we don't eat out 3 times a week? You know,
Maybe
we're
you
cooking.
sign up for some sort of competition or race.
Exactly. So do both. I like what you said. Do both. The outcome and the process that's going to get you there. Then, so now you've got the 3 categories. You've got the feeling. You've got both the outcome and the process that's going to get you there. We'd also give you a bonus if you're up for it. And that would be somewhat of a reward.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What is going to be the reward or the celebration that you both will want? Oh man, this is making me even think back to like early in our entrepreneurial days when we had certain financial goals. One was going to Costa Rica with my brother, and we paid for his whole trip and we had a blast. We stayed in a 5-star resort, and that really motivated us, you know, so create
this is a good point.
that.
I actually feel like, to be honest, we don't do a good job of this anymore.
I said that because I needed that reminder too.
Well, it reminds me of a good friend of ours, Lindsay. She intentionally creates the celebrations along the way, not just celebrating once you achieve the outcome or the result. And my guess is it would keep you really motivated, it keep you excited. And I assume that because as I think about this and you bring it up, I think we wait to celebrate things till we achieve the outcome.
So we need a little bit more of that.
I think we could definitely upgrade this.
Exactly. And I want to say something too about the structure and the process that's going to get you there, because we had mentioned that a couple of the categories you could use could be like communication, right? Or it could be the conflict in your relationship. These don't have to be just like finances, health, career. You can make these relationship goals. And so as far as structure and having a process, it is going to require you to take action when you don't feel like it, like you said. And so we actually have a web class for your relationship goals, especially if you have a goal around your communication and repairing from conflicts better. So if you haven't watched it already, we've had quite a few of you register from hearing it on the podcast, and it's about the 5 steps to repair after an argument, so you can reconnect in just minutes instead of days, hours, weeks. So go to onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. And that /repair is really important so that you get to that specific web class. But watch that while we're on maternity leave with baby Freeman when she decides to come. We're a few days past her quote unquote due date, even though it's really a guest date. And that web class is going to be available till we're back in January. So make sure you take advantage of that. Again, it's onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. We've gotten great feedback from that.
And just as a note for you, the maternity leave does not impact you in the podcast episodes, as we have some great episodes still coming. This is just us taking time off to be with baby Freeman. We're not doing any personal coaching or live events. And we also wanted to make this web class available to you during our time off so you can still make that kind of progress in your communication and conflict resolution that you've been looking for.
Exactly. So yes, more podcast episodes coming to you. Don't worry, we're not leaving you hanging. And so just to close out this topic, right, what we're inviting you into is ideally before the end of the year. Yes, you could wait till the first week of the year if you really want to, but we find that it's a great activity to do over the holiday time. And to sit down and ask each other those 3 meaningful questions that we provided for you. And then also get out that piece of paper, get the whiteboard out, create those 3 categories, and then create those 3 goals or aspirations together, and you will feel a sense of inspiration. You'll feel united. It's going to give you some juice and something that you are working towards together in this next year. So we can't wait to hear what your goals are as a couple. We really hope that you'll take on this activity. It has served our relationship many, many times. And with that, everyone, we will talk to you on the next episode.